Hi, we're going to talk about endocrine control of growth here, and it's going to focus on the hormones that develop a normal human being into the complete adult stature. So this is the topic number, and my name's Derry Morgan. You can contact me at derrymorgan at rush.edu, and my lab is at 1245 Jelke. I respond best to emails, and I'm pretty quick with that, so that's the best way to contact me if you have any questions about this content. So what do we mean by growth? Well, growth is the organised addition of new tissue as occurs normally during development from infancy to adulthood, and it involves the lengthening of the skeleton, particularly the long bones of the legs and the vertebrae, but all the soft tissue, all the organs grow in proportion to the height of the skeleton that is predetermined by your genetics. And growth requires adequate nutrition to produce the building blocks required for the growth of your skeleton and your organs and your muscles as you develop fully to your adult stature. So this is a growth chart that shows both the height and the weight of an average human being from birth all the way up to their adult stature. And you'll notice in this there are two growth spurts. There's one shortly after you're born in the first year of life where you have this first elongation and a large increase in mass, and then you have a sort of more linear period before you hit puberty where you have a final growth spurt and you achieve your complete adult stature. And so the hormones that control these various growth periods are, I'm going to list here. And you have growth hormone and somatomedin. This is kind of the main hormone combination that dictates your growth throughout your life. And we'll talk about that extensively. And then we have thyroid hormone that synergizes with both these two. And in its absence, you have growth defects that I'll emphasize during this lecture. Cortisol is also involved in growth, as is insulin, but I'll only sort of touch on these in a smaller fashion, although I will highlight some of cortisol's effects around the body that you should be aware of. And then testosterone and estrogen that are very important for growth during puberty, and this also synergizes with growth hormone and somatomedin during this period to help you achieve your full adult stature. So this chart shows you the various stages of growth. We can think of them as being four types. You have fetal growth, then you have this growth spurt between 0 and 1 years, then you have this linear period of growth between 1 and 12, and then you have puberty, which is split into two here, mainly to emphasize that puberty happens slightly earlier in females compared to males. Now this first column talks about the percentage of adult height achieved, and so when you're born you're about 30% of your complete adult stature, then you go up to about 45% of that in the first year of growth, then you reach about 85% of your full height and weight at 12 years, and then puberty brings you up to the full height. Now we'll notice then as we go through these columns the different time points, time frames where these hormones are most important. IGF is required throughout life, but after birth this is stimulated by growth hormone. Before birth the IGF is given by the mother, but it's required throughout all periods of growth because this is kind of what stimulates the target organs to grow. But as I said, growth hormone is required after birth in order to stimulate the release of IGF that then stimulates the growth. Thyroid hormone is required throughout all stages of life, but it's particularly important during this perinatal period, this period that's sort of 23 weeks after fertilization till about a year after birth. And if it's not around in significant quantities during this time, then the neuronal development is stunted, you get cretinism, and it's required as well during the other periods of growth, because in absence of it, then IGF doesn't function quite so well. And then you have the sex hormones that are required during puberty, and this then greatly increases your growth during this period by again making IGF work better. Puberty occurs earlier in females, and this has consequences on the differences in height between males and females that I'll allude to later on. Insulin is required throughout your life, and this is mainly due to metabolic control of growth, because it's one of your main anabolic hormones.